He laughed at me, not the kind of laugh that fades, but the kind that sticks to your skin like a burn. Right there, in front of everyone. He called me a nobody with a badge. I remember the way the room fell silent, the way every eye turned toward me, waiting to see if I'd break. But I didn't. I just stood there, holding the line, pretending the words didn't slice through me. His name was Admiral Kenneth Rourke. Mine is Lucinda Bramwell. And that day, he had no idea who he was humiliating, because one day soon, the man who mocked me would hear my name whispered again, not as the guard he dismissed, but as Major Bramwell. The morning bit hard, the kind that cracked through gloves and silence alike. A line of black cars slowed at the gate, windows tinted, flags fluttering. The scanner beeped red. "System glitch," someone said in my earpiece. "Just clear him." "Negative," I answered. The window rolled down. Admiral Rourke's face appeared, smooth, cold, carved from entitlement. "We both know who outranks who here," he said. "Not when it comes to safety," I replied. Laughter rippled behind him, polite and poisonous. Then the glass slid up, shutting me out. The convoy rolled through, leaving the sting of exhaust and something colder behind. When the light turned green, I lowered my hand. Jake, the rookie, asked why I didn't let it go. "Because rules only matter when it's inconvenient," I said. He laughed. Thinking I was kidding, I wasn't. Snow began to fall again as the gate closed. I watched the flag catch the wind, red against gray sky, and felt that old ache twist inside, the kind that never really leaves, no matter how long you stand guard. The cabin on the ridge has no neighbors, no footsteps, just the whisper of pine needles and the long exhale of the wind. It's the only place where I don't feel eyes on my back. On the desk sits a small model of an F-22 Raptor. Its right wing snapped clean off. I've never glued it back. Beside it hangs a photo of 3 pilots squeezed into a cockpit, smiling before takeoff. Michael and Carter are both gone. I'm the one who crawled out of the wreckage, spine fractured, hearing doctors say I'd never fly again. They were right about the flying, not about the rest. That evening, an email pings through the quiet. Routine background check, civilian contractors. At the bottom, Admiral Kenneth Rourke's signature gleams like a blade. Nothing about me is routine, not with the files I'm buried in. I open the security logs. Someone from the Bureau of Personnel Clearance has just requested my entire record. ID traced straight back to Rourke's office. My stomach tightens. This isn't an audit, it's a hunt. I twist the silver bracelet on my wrist, the only thing left from my service days. 4 words etched inside. Hold the line. I murmur to no one. I'm still holding it. Outside, the wind rises, carrying the distant rumble of engines across the mountains, like ghosts reminding me where I came from. The UAV test site is deserted at night, just floodlights sweeping across snow and wire. As I circle the fence, a camera feed flickers, Warehouse 7, accessed by an internal IP I've never seen. I pull up the live view. There he is, Rourke, shaking hands with a man in a black leather coat clutching a metal case. The maintenance lights catch his face, Thomas Halloran, head of a private drone firm under federal scrutiny. Rourke slips him a thin envelope. No officer schedules secret meetings like that. I save the footage to an encrypted drive. If I hand it over, they'll accuse me of breaching classified feeds. If I keep it, they'll come for me. I do it anyway, sending a duplicate to a secure inbox I rarely touch. That small decision will change everything. On my way out, the hall lights flicker and die. The mechanical whir of the security camera stops mid-turn. A single red dot blinks above me. My badge's location beacon shows a signal I didn't authorize. Someone is tracking me. Back at the cabin, I open the laptop and stare at the broken wing Raptor. I press the wing back into place. It no longer fits. Neither do I. Snow thickens against the window as I shut off the light. In the dark, the silence feels like a countdown. The fight isn't over. It's just beginning. They laughed. Not cruelly, just politely. That's the worst kind of humiliation. The sky over the runway was a flat sheet of silver, snow melting into dark streaks along the pavement. I stood at the side gate where the VIPs entered for the UAV demonstration, uniform plain and unadorned, watching rows of pristine white jackets stream past. From a black SUV stepped Admiral Rourke, smiling wide at the men beside him. When his eyes caught mine, the smile collapsed. "Oh, it's you again," he muttered, low but loud enough for the circle to hear. I checked the clipboard and saw 4 technicians in his entourage who weren't cleared. "Sir, these 4 technicians aren't authorized for the airfield," I said, voice even, steady. Rourke gave a quick snort, turning toward the crowd. "Relax, folks. She's just a hired guard, not a soldier. Let her play security Barbie for a minute." Polite chuckles rose, sharp as ice splinters. I didn't answer. A gust of wind lifted a strip of red ribbon from the grandstand and dropped it at my boot. I picked it up, smoothed it, set it aside. The laughter stopped, awkwardly. When the ceremony began, I scanned the handheld one last time. Unknown personnel, Warehouse Sector 4, the very hangar where I'd seen Rourke before. "Command, this is Bramwell. Personnel mismatch in Sector 4. I reported. A different voice came back, clipped and cold. "Stand down, contractor. We've got it handled." Then silence. The feed died. I turned and found Rourke behind me, his voice a whisper meant to sting. "You're overstepping your pay grade. We don't need paranoia here." "If it's paranoia, sir, it disappears with a single check," I said without blinking. His mouth twisted. Then he walked away. By the time the speeches ended, my coworkers wouldn't meet my eyes. Rumors spread like frost. I'd caused trouble for the Admiral. That night at home, the television glowed with Rourke's face smiling in victory over a successful first stage of UAV testing. I shut it off. Light from the screen lingered on the old photo of my lost wingmen. "Still holding the line, boys," I whispered. They took the evidence. Then they tried to take my name. Late that night, I returned to the base to hand over my patrol logs. The door to the security office stood ajar, hallway lights flickering. The external drive where I'd stored the footage was gone. I checked the log, last access, the Admiral's own office. Then every camera feed cut out at once, black screens, no sound. The next morning, they summoned me upstairs. Rourke sat at the table with 2 security officers and a legal advisor. "Miss Bramwell," he began, "we found traces of unauthorized data extraction under your credentials. You've been accessing classified test feeds." I stared at the cooling coffee in front of me. "Do you deny it?" "No." He smiled thinly. "At least you're honest. That'll look better on the termination report." My badge and clearance were taken on the spot. I rose, met his eyes. "If I wanted to cause harm, Admiral, you wouldn't even know I was here." The room went still, his face flushed, fist hitting the table. "You're finished here. Security will escort you off base." "Understood," I said, and walked out without turning back. Outside the gate, a black SUV idled far off, lights off, engine running. I knew the plate. They were watching now. If they wanted a hunt, they'd soon find out who the prey really was. As I crossed the lot, a man in fatigues slowed, studying me. Commander Mark Ellison, the SEAL team leader for the event. "Ma'am, have we met before?" "I don't think so, Commander," I replied, moving past. He watched me go, frowning. That voice. I heard him murmur. "Valkyrie." That night in the cabin, the snow lay heavy and silent. My laptop chimed. The duplicate video file still safe in my private inbox. "Not gone yet," I whispered, closing it. Outside, a streak of light crossed the mountain sky like a jet returning from nowhere. The countdown had started. Sometimes the fire you run toward is the only one that can burn away your fear. 2 days after the suspension, I still drove back to the base. I parked across the road from the UAV test field, the windshield layered with ice. Snow whipped sideways in the wind, but I could see the banners fluttering, the rows of chrome drones gleaming under the gray sky. From the loudspeakers came the national anthem, echoing across the airfield like something both proud and hollow. On the grandstand, officers and journalists took their seats. I spotted Rourke's face projected on the giant LED screen, smiling, flawless, unaware. I lifted the old handheld radio I kept out of habit, scanning through frequencies until I reached 221, the drone tech channel. A faint hiss, then a pulse. Static broke into the rhythm of another signal. I knew that frequency. It was jamming, industrial grade, coming from inside the system. My eyes swept the field until a glint caught from beneath the grandstand. A small silver transmitter. Hidden. Active. I pressed the radio's transmit button. Command. This is Bramwell. Frequency interference at the airfield. Abort test. No reply. I switched to the backup channel. Ms. Bramwell, you no longer have clearance. Do not engage. The voice was flat, final. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. From across the tarmac, a voice on the loudspeaker began counting down. 5, 4, 3. The first UAV roared upward, cutting through the snow. God, I whispered. Not again. The warning siren wailed a heartbeat later. One drone veered off course, spiraling. People screamed as alarms blared. The radar feed flickered across the big screen, its trajectory headed straight toward the main stands. Families, children, cadets. No time. I shoved the door open and ran, snow tearing at my face. I climbed the perimeter fence, the steel slicing into my hand. But I didn't stop. Brace and cover, I shouted, voice sharp and trained. Everyone down, stage left, behind the trucks. Someone must have hit the emergency mic. My voice boomed through the speakers. Hundreds dropped to the ground. I saw the drone's angle, 38 degrees, diving at near 200 knots. You two, get the kids under the bleachers. Move, I barked. They obeyed like soldiers under command. The impact came seconds later, a blast that folded the air, flinging smoke and fire across the field. I hit the ground, ears ringing. When I lifted my head, the stands still stood, the people alive. Smoke rolled over the runway like gray surf. Then through the haze came a voice. Deep. Stunned. Major Bramwell? Commander Mark Ellison stood among the debris, eyes locked on the scar along my wrist. Recognition flickered. Call sign, Valkyrie. I said nothing. Around us, silence swallowed everything, the crowd, the chaos, even the wind. Somewhere behind. Rourke didn't move. The world had just remembered who I was. A salute can be a sentence, or a prayer. The smoke hung thick, mixing with falling snow. I brushed ash from my jacket, blood seeping through the cut on my hand, but the pain didn't register. Mark Ellison stepped forward, boots crunching on debris. Then, without a word, he raised his hand in a salute, sharp, clean, unmistakable. Ma'am, his voice carried through the still hot air. Major Lucinda Bramwell, United States Air Force, retired, call sign, Valkyrie. The mic somewhere nearby was still live. His words rippled over the speakers. Gasps broke the silence. Someone whispered, The Valkyrie? She's real? Cameras turned. Officers froze mid-motion. For years I'd been invisible, a shadow behind the gate. Now every eye saw the woman they'd laughed at, and couldn't look away. Mark kept his hand raised. Behind him, the rest of his SEAL unit followed suit, one by one. Then an Air Force sergeant near the wreckage joined them. Next, a group of cadets. Then the tech crews. Within seconds, the stands transformed into a sea of raised hands, all facing me, a living tide of respect. I felt the ground tilt, not from the blast, but from the weight of it all. Across the crowd, Rourke still stood, motionless. Every gaze turned toward him. His jaw clenched. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand, too. The salute was stiff, imperfect, but it held. When he lowered it, I saw his lips move. I was wrong. Mark stepped closer, his voice soft beneath the hum of recovery vehicles. You saved over 100 lives today. Ma'am. It's just the job, I said quietly. He shook his head. No, it's the calling. For the first time in years, I smiled. Barely, but enough. Around us, technicians uncovered the silver transmitter buried beneath the stands, exactly where I'd seen it. Every camera had caught the moment I acted. The commands, the rescue. Every feed recorded the Admiral's secret, now crawling out of the shadows. The American flag flapped high above the smoke, colors muted but unbroken. I stood beneath it, still covered in dust, and breathed. For once, I didn't feel like the survivor of something lost. I felt like someone who still stood for what remained. The field never forgets its own, Mark said behind me, and I believed him. When the smoke clears, what's left is never metal or ash. It's the truth. By afternoon, the base was sealed off. The air reeked of burnt fuel, clinging to my jacket no matter how many times I brushed it away. Fire trucks hissed as they drowned what was left of the wreck, and military police cordoned off the debris. I sat on a supply crate, wrapping a bandage around my arm, watching the medics carry crying children to the ambulances. Mothers reached out. Some grabbed my hand. I nodded once, unable to find words that wouldn't crack. Rourke appeared through the haze, his immaculate coat stained with soot. "You endangered the entire operation," he snapped. "I saved it," I said quietly. "You disobeyed orders. You ignored warnings." We faced each other in the smoke, the distance between us no more than the truth he'd tried to bury. "I saw you and Halloran in Hangar 7, I said. "You took the envelope. You let him plant those transmitters." His face drained of color. Mark Ellison approached, holding a scorched hard drive. "Ma'am, this yours?" It was. The one stolen from my office. "Found in a dumpster behind Halloran's car," he said. He plugged it in. The video appeared. Rourke and Halloran shaking hands under floodlights, an envelope exchanged. A hush swept over the onlookers. "God, it's real," someone whispered. "You have no authority to—" Rourke began. But Mark's voice cut through. "With respect, Admiral, she outranks you where it matters." I rose, meeting Rourke's eyes. "You thought I was guarding gates, Admiral. I was guarding lives." He had no answer. Above us, the flag caught the wind, red against the ash-gray sky. The SEAL team stood at attention. Rourke was escorted away, head down. Mark gave me a small nod. "You did your duty, Major." I looked at the wreckage, then back at him. "We all did. In Washington, truth walks slower than rumor, but it still walks." A week later, I sat in a hearing room beneath the gray dome of DOC. The Defense Oversight Committee had called an emergency session. Rourke sat at the far table, face drained, his uniform stripped of insignia. Halloran didn't even bother pretending. He confessed on the first question, laying out every deal, every bribe, every signature Rourke had left behind. I sat silent in the witness row, the only sound the click of pens and the shuffle of papers. A congressman turned toward me. "Ms. Bramwell, why didn't you come forward sooner?" I looked up, voice even, because no one listens to the quiet ones until the noise begins. The room fell still. Even the recorders seemed to pause. For a moment, no one breathed. The verdict came quickly. Major Lucinda Bramwell, United States Air Force, retired, acted in accordance with the highest standards of service. Her actions prevented catastrophic loss of life. Cameras flashed. Questions erupted. "Ah, Major, how does it feel to be vindicated?" Someone called out. "I didn't come here to feel anything," I said. "I came to make sure no one else had to." After the session, the Deputy Secretary of Defense approached. "Major, the department wishes to reinstate your honors and present the Civilian Medal of Valor." I smiled faintly. "I've already been honored, sir, by the people who stood when I stood alone." As I turned to leave, Mark Ellison's voice followed across the marble corridor. "The field never forgets its own. Valkyrie." I looked back and nodded once. The echo of his words stayed with me all the way home. Peace isn't the absence of war. It's knowing when not to fight. A month later, The snow had melted, and the mountain wind carried the promise of spring. I stood once again at the north gate, the same post where everything had begun. The morning sun caught the navy blue fabric of my uniform. No medals, no rank, just fabric and purpose. A young cadet approached, swiped his badge. The reader blinked red. I smiled gently. Try again, cadet. Sometimes systems need a second chance. He grinned, embarrassed, and jogged off toward the barracks. Further down the line, a group of female cadets walked past, whispering. One peeled away and turned back, hesitation in her eyes. "Ma'am?" she asked softly. "Were you really a major?" I looked at her, so young, so bright-eyed, so eager to understand what dignity looks like in quiet form. "No," I said, calm and clear. "I'm just someone who learned when to act." She smiled, then gave me a respectful nod before rejoining her friends. I stood still for a while, letting the breeze move through my hair. Behind me, the American flag cracked in the wind, proud, worn, relentless. Up above, an F-22 thundered across the sky, its roar fading into the distance. I watched it vanish like a memory you don't try to chase, just honor as it leaves. "Still holding the line," I whispered, and I stayed there, steady, a quiet figure by the gate, where duty begins, and sometimes, where it returns to rest, 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 returns